fastest show in sports.
We're out last night having dinner. TV's on, and of course it's on ESPN because everybody else and the clowns in the bar want to watch sports. And there was Michael Wilbon, and the lower third graphic said, "Is Dallas a contender?" Why in the name of sweet Jesus does every discussion have to go down to the Dallas Cowboys? I mean, this is another one of those issues about the sports media. Who cares? I mean, ESPN has got this stiffy for whatever reason for the Dallas Cowboys, and everything is about why are the Dallas Cowboys not a contender? Why do they win a Super Bowl? Why do we care? They're not even relevant to the conversation, and they haven't been for years.
Just really quick, and I'll let David jump in on this. He'll know more than me because was at the Miami Herald forever. He's been at Miami Herald forever. I would say that, you were in radio ad for many years, and I guess you could say you're in it now, even though you're making less money. I would say that.
Thanks, Mike.
I would say.
Thanks, Mike. Tell everybody. Go ahead.
I would say this, Ed. You play the hits, right? You play the hits. And Dallas Cowboys, the New York Yankees, Notre Dame, Duke, those are the hits in sports. And you play those, and it's lazy. It's lazy. Caters to Steve. It caters to Stephen A's world, which is, if you got something of interest. And I remember talking to Adrian Wojnarowski, who I've known forever, and about this. But I remember telling it when I was at ESPN for a few years. I said, this undefeated thing, I don't know if it's going to get off the ground. I go, you got any advice? And he said, just write about important athletes, like write about big stars. And I didn't, because I thought I didn't, they're boring to me unless I find something original about them or they open up to me like nobody has. I'm more interested in the story that's sort of beneath the story, but there was some, had I listened to him, God forbid, I'd probably be there, and I think
like
that's
what
it's about.
Cowboys,
you
Mike,
play the hits.
The Dallas Cowboys were big when they were America's team, 70s and 80s. They haven't been relevant to a Super Bowl conversation now in how long? A couple of decades by the time it's done? Sure, occasionally everybody will start and go, they're close, but they're not. So when you're talking about playing the hits, you said the word, it's lazy. But do people really want to hear about the Dallas Cowboys? Or is that just a matter of the media saying, I got to say something really stupid and outrageous and blatheringly idiotic out there. So let's bring in the Dallas Cowboys one more time because it's easy. We don't have anything else intelligent to talk about. I mean, that's what gets me all the time.
I think it's more a case of that, especially if you're Wilbon's age, which is a little older than all of us. You forget how fast time has passed, how much time has passed since the Dallas Cowboys really were in that conversation. And so you feel like, this is recent, right? And like, no, the kids being drafted in April don't remember Dallas being a serious Super Bowl contender, because the last time they were, those kids were babies. It was like 2007, 2008.
Or they weren't even born.
But they had some very good. They've had some very good teams, like where people, if not predicted them to win the Super Bowl, predicted them to be in like the NFC Championship, or with Dak and Ezekiel Elliott, and so I mean they won. I think they had a couple 12-win seasons. So I don't. Here's what I think it is, real quick. And Wilbon is a great place to start because Wilbon, God bless him, my friend, my colleague. Even if he does look like a little turtle head coming out of his suit now on ESPN some days, I think that Wilbon had a great point about the Cowboys back in the day, which was, look, the reason why there are so many Cowboy fans in D.C., because they learned from their fathers and their grandfathers that the Cowboys had black players on their teams when the Washington Native Americans didn't, and the Washington was the last team to integrate in the NFL, and black people in Washington remember that, and so and not only that, they had a huge following over the years. And then the second part of that is, Ed, It's like you. It's like maybe you telling a relative like, "Oh, you don't know what the Kennedys were like," or Martin Luther King was like. There's things that sort of are passed down in your family.
Mike, you're
If
reaching.
your grandfather was the last person to see the Cowboys win a Super Bowl, or your father was the last person to win a Super Bowl, that's already in you, and you know that, and you're sort of waiting for it to happen again, irrespective
You're
of if it's
reaching.
not going to happen
Come
again.
on, you can't make
I
this a
am
Rachel
reaching.
Amos kind of
I
thing.
am reaching. You told me
yeah.
to. You told me the only way this show was going to work is if we were provocative and made up shit. Come on.
Well, there it is,
I, I,
making up shit. It's this whole
I
thing
think
about
both.
what.
I think
Go
both,
ahead, Dave.
No, both mics needed to have their deltoids massaged before they made that reach because they will pull them. Making that reach about why there are so many Dallas fans in Washington. I think it's just because they were those two teams clashed so incredibly over for a short
Rivalry.
time.
Well, they were a
Right.
rivalry that CBS Sports turned into America's rivalry.
Right. If you didn't like the Redskins, or if you got sick of Washington, if you were there, and
we can't. Yeah, we can't. We can't use that on our. We can't use that word on our name on our show.
Our word, right? If you were there and you didn't like them, who were you gonna like? The arch rival.
Yeah.
So I think that's
true.
I think when it comes to playing the hits, and I remember saying this back when I was covering the Panthers.
Lazy.
It is. Somebody had to write the first story on John Elway. Somebody had to write the first story on Patrick Waugh. Somebody had to write the first story on a lot of these things. And you're right, Mike. I tried to take the approach. I remember the first time I remember having this discussion was writing about a Buffalo Sabres player named Donald Audette, who was a good NHL player, above average NHL player. He killed the Panthers. He averaged a goal a game against the Panthers. It would be 0-0 Panthers Sabres, and we're like, yeah, it's actually 1-0 because Audette hasn't scored yet. And I was after a while, I was like, okay, who is this guy? Who is this guy who always kills the team that I cover, that my readers, most of my readers are fans of this team. Who is this guy who's killing your team? And I remember somebody else saying, nobody knows about him. Well, that's the point. That's the point. That's why I need to write about him. And so I hear I've heard the same thing from the local sports columnists that, you know what, it's the Dolphins aren't always the most interesting story in town. There's really sometimes nothing new to write about them, but sometimes they get lazy.
It's the Dolphins.
Like, okay, I can spend an extra effort and finding something new to write about any number of things around this town, or I can write another Dolphins need to do this, or can the Dolphins do that column. Okay, I'll write the Dolphins.
Well, see, from a local standpoint, though, David, I mean, the people in Dallas, Fort Worth, they want to cover the snot out of the Dallas Cowboys because that's what the people care about. In Miami, they want to cover the Miami Dolphins because the people care about it.
But
neither the Cowboys nor the Dolphins are relevant to any kind of a Super Bowl race this year. Neither one of them are that good. They're all just there because we're living on past reputations. Certainly the Dolphins aren't worth it.
I understand that, but it's
your past.
The same thing. You're being late. You're doing something. You're writing a Dolphins column that says really nothing new and has no new insight. Why? Because it's the easiest thing to do. It's the same.
But it's easy for the local audience.
Is the doubt right? It is a local. It's still lazy, and it still means to me like it's okay, fine. Might be able to. You may not get the same number of hits these days, traffic, but by doing this other thing, but there's something more there, and you might do better work, and you might, for Pete's sake, you might find something that you go back to. To me, it's the same thing. You're being lazy. You're right. In a local sense, you're never going to lose with that. But in a national sense, also, you might not lose. I have not looked at the merchandising sales for, a long time. I remember when the Patriots were number one for a while. But Dallas has spent most of the last 40, 50 years, in that, 1 or 2 or 3 area. And either either they're the most loved, and conversely, like the Patriots, now they've spent the last many years in the most hated.
Look, the Dallas Cowboys are only
Ed.
important to an NFL conversation right now so that people can watch and see how Jerry Jones can screw them up again. It has become that's all it really is, and the whole
you could say
soap opera
that
about
all
Dak
you want.
Prescott is nonsense too. It doesn't mean anything to the conversation.
Yeah, but you can say that all you want, Ed, okay? You can say that all you want. You can go off on that. There is not a Netflix special on the Baltimore Ravens cheerleaders, okay? There's not a Netflix special.
Don't give him an idea. That'll probably be next.
On the women. There's not a Netflix special on the women of the Seattle Seahawks. The Dallas Cowboys have a cheerleader show on Netflix. Damn it.
I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to argue that point, but I'm saying when I look up and when it's June, for crying out loud, and this is a national show that supposedly has some kind of relevance to it, is talking about the Dallas Cowboys being a contender. Is that the best you can do? Really?
Yeah. Well, it's lazy. It's the middle of summer too. Personally, I'm waiting for the Little League World Series where they exploit 12-year-olds on television and watch them cry and have all this trauma that lasts a lifetime. And ABC and Disney make money off of it. It's a wonderful show.
That's all, folks.